Happy Monday, friends. Welcome to another Monday Book Talk with me, AnnaLee Dragon. I'm the director of the Kinderhook Memorial Library. And this Monday is a special one because it is the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, which means head of the year and is the celebration of the Jewish New Year. So during Rosh Hashanah, Jewish people around the world ask God for forgiveness for mistakes that they've made over the past year and remind themselves not to repeat those mistakes in the coming year, which is something we should all be trying to do. They also eat symbolic foods, which is a newer tradition, like apples dipped in honey, which is hoping to evoke a sweet new year, which I think is a lovely tradition. And so this year it is beginning on today, Monday, September 6th, and it lasts through the evening of Wednesday, September 8th. And so I thought I know we have Jewish members of our community, and I thought it would be really fun to talk about some books that sort of highlight the contemporary Jewish experience. I have some nonfiction that is about Jewish holidays and a cookbook that looks really great. But then I also picked a whole bunch of newer fiction that is around the contemporary Jewish experience. So the culture, the religion, the society that's sort of built around it. And they all look fantastic. A lot of them have won awards and gotten prizes and are really well reviewed. And it was a lot of fun to put this list together. So I'm hoping that you will all broaden your horizons a little with a new fiction or nonfiction book and learn a little about Jewish culture or the holiday. And all of these books that we're going to talk about are available in the Mid-Hudson Library System. So you can borrow them. A few of them are on Hoopla, so ebooks, which if that's your thing, great. Otherwise, you can get them as regular books through our library system by placing holds or giving us a call. Some of them we have here, some are at other libraries. And what I'm going to do is what I've been doing, put a cover of a book up and talk about it, and then continue that way. At the end of the talk, I will put up all of the covers again in case you missed them so that you can get titles and authors if there's something you'd like to request, which I hope there is. Okay, so let's get started talking books about Jewish culture for Rosh Hashanah. Here we go. As you saw there, we're going to start with fiction, and I will get to the nonfiction ones at the end. But the first book that we're going to talk about is called An Unorthodox Match by Naomi Reagan. And it is a powerful and moving novel, they say, of faith, love, and acceptance. This author wrote another best-selling book called The Devil in Jerusalem. So this is a follow-up. I don't think they're related in storyline, but it is the same author. So it says here that the California girl Lola has her life all set up. Business degree, handsome fiance, fast-track career, when suddenly, without warning, everything tragically implodes. After years fruitlessly searching for love, marriage, and children, she decides to take the radical step of seeking spirituality and meaning far outside the parameters of modern life in the insular, ultra-Orthodox enclave of Borough Park, Brooklyn. There, fate brings her to the dysfunctional home of newly widowed Jacob, a devout Torah scholar, whose life is also in turmoil and whose small children are aching for the kindness of a womanly touch. While her mother direly predicts she's ruining her life, enslaving herself to a community that is a misogynistic religious cult, Lola's heart tells her something far more complicated. But it is just shocking and unexpected messages of new community itself, which will force her into a deeper understanding of the real choices she now faces, which ultimately will decide her fate. So it's kind of a very modern retelling of a story that's probably age old, right? We all reach a certain age, we're looking for love, and we have a plan for our life and how things are supposed to go. And something led her to take this diversion from that path or go in a different direction in order to get to the same end. But it also involves some things that I think are commonly misunderstood, like the ultra-Orthodox, why am I blanking on the word here? Neighborhoods or communities that exist within New York City and other places. So I think you're going to learn a lot about the Jewish faith and the different kind of variations of that and what it can look like, in addition to being a great story about a woman trying to find her goal in life, her road. So it just looked wonderful. It got great reviews. And I hope maybe you'll check that one out if you haven't yet. It's An Unorthodox Match. Okay, next book. The next title is Forest Dark by Nicole Krauss. So this was a notable book of 2017 for the New York Times and a best book of 2017 by Esquire, Times Literary Supplement, Elle Magazine, Publishers Weekly. So it's not brand new, it's a couple years old, but maybe you missed it. I know that happens to me all the time. Something comes out, it's new and popular, and I put it on my list and I don't get to it. So hopefully that's the case here, or you've never heard of it and I'm introducing you to something new, which would be fantastic. So lots of rave reviews around this. Nicole Krauss herself has had lots of rave reviews for her other work, The History of Love. So this is, they call it an achingly beautiful and breathtakingly original novel about personal transformation that interweaves the stories of two disparate individuals, an older lawyer and a young novelist, whose transcendental search leads them to the same Israeli desert. So obviously religion is an undertone here again, but we've got two different narratives happening, two different age people, two different stories, and I love that. I love when we interweave and you go kind of back and forth between either two timelines or two people's stories, and then there's this going to be this moment, obviously, where these two stories intersect, and I always think that's really interesting and makes for a good narrative. So this is about what the older lawyer is Jules Epstein. He's a man whose drive and outsized personality have for his 68 years been a force to be reckoned with, but he's undergoing a major transformation in his life. His parents have died, he's divorcing his wife of more than 30 years, and he retired from a New York legal firm where he was a partner, and he's felt like a need to kind of unload, and so he's giving away all of his possessions, and which is scaring his kids, obviously, and perplexing the executor of his estate. And with the last of his money, he decides to travel to Israel to honor his parents in some fashion. But in Tel Aviv, he's sidetracked by a charismatic American rabbi planning a reunion for the descendants of King David, who insists that Epstein is part of the storied dynastic line. So then Epstein isn't the only one seeking a metaphysical journey. So leaving her family in Brooklyn, a young, well-known novelist arrives at the Tel Aviv Hilton, where she has stayed every year since her birth. Troubled by writer's block and a failing marriage, she hopes that the hotel can unlock a dimension of reality and a perception of her life that has been closed off to her. But when she meets a retired literature professor who proposes a project she can't turn down, she's drawn to a mystery that alters her life in ways she never could have imagined. So they call it a profound and mesmerizing novel of metamorphosis and self-realization, of looking beyond all that's visible towards the infinite, which that description alone would get me to read it. But I love the idea that both of these people are at these junctures in their life where they're different ages, but things are happening to them that are making them look inward or outward for other meaning, for a different path, for different choices they could make. And I think most of us at some point in our lives face that kind of moment. So Forest Dark by Nicole Krauss got rave reviews, and I know that this one got added to my to-read list when I was making this video talk up. So okay, next book, everyone. So I don't know if you're noticing a theme here, but with these books, I feel like there are a lot of bigger questions happening, existential questions about our lives and their direction and meaning and the search for that and what we're looking for at the end of our lives. And so I think this next book continues that. It's called The Finkler Question by Howard Jacobson. And it is about a couple of Jewish widowers and an unmarried Gentile who have dinner together one night, and they share a sweetly painful evening reminiscing on a time before they had loved and lost, before they had prized anything greatly enough to fear losing it. And then something happens, a crime happens, one of them is mugged, and in its aftermath, he believes it to be an act of anti-Semitism. They don't clarify whether it actually is or not, at least in the summary of it, but he believes it to be an act of anti-Semitism, and in that, in its aftermath, his whole sense of self will ineluctably change. I think I pronounced that wrong. Sorry. So The Finkler Question, they say, is a funny, furious, unflinching novel that looks at friendship and loss, exclusion and belonging, and the wisdom of humanity and maturity. So again, touching on some really major themes in human existence, right, that we all face. And I think that's the beauty of celebrating something like a particular faith or culture. Then what you end up seeing is how alike we all are, that a lot of these questions that we're dealing with are the same no matter who you are, no matter what faith you follow, no matter where you're born, no matter what you look like. We all, as human beings, have a shared experience in some fashion in that we all confront these same kind of major questions at different points in our lives. And so it's something that binds us together, which I think is lovely. Even though it's difficult often, I think it's a nice thing to remember. So this one won the Man Booker Prize in 2010. Big deal. So I would highly recommend the Finkler Question. And I have one more fiction, and then I've got a couple nonfiction for you. Here we go. So the last novel we're going to talk about is Disobedience by Naomi Alderman. You saw the cover there. And so this has an interesting backstory. I saw an interview with Naomi Alderman, and she said that in the process of writing this novel, which is about a gay Jewish woman, Ronit, who returns to her strict Orthodox Jewish community in North London from a high-flying legal career in New York after the death of her father, the beloved community rabbi, the author herself, Naomi, realized that she no longer identified with her faith. It turned out that when I was done with the book, I was also done with the frum, a word for observant, kosher-keeping Jewish people. Giving up Orthodox Judaism was the major event of my early 30s, an unraveling and reknitting of self that took me to the best part of a decade to feel complete, solid, and peaceful again, she wrote in the Guardian interview. So it was, this book was also made into a movie starring Rachel Weisz. So it's gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of people may have seen the movie but not read the book. I always think the book is better, but this is a portrait of forbidden love, but it's also a glimpse into a tight-knit religious community. It brilliantly captures the feeling of suffocation that's part and parcel of suburban London life. So we're traveling a little, and I like the intersectionality that we've got here, talking about not just the Jewish faith, but its relationship to the LGBTQ community, as the main character is gay, and how that relates to an Orthodox community as opposed to maybe the Jewish community at large. So there's a lot going on here to unpack, and that's what drew me to it, was kind of all of these different things being factors in the story. And so this was one of President Obama's favorite reads of 2017, and it's, a powerful novel. Again, deep questions, big subjects. And so I know that this is all kind of heavy, but I also think it's really nice to see such broad representation of the Jewish faith in fiction, in modern fiction, and how that contemporary experience is different from maybe what it was like in the past in ways good and bad. So I'm really excited about all of these books. I hope you saw something there that you enjoyed. I did want to touch on two quickly nonfiction books that would also speak to the subject in case you're interested. So here we go with those. The Little Book of Jewish Celebrations by Ronald Tauber, and the illustrator is Yelena Briskinskova. I probably mispronounced that. My apologies. So this covers everything from lighting the menorah on Hanukkah to standing under the chuppah at a wedding. Every Jewish ritual reflects a time-honored practice passed down for generations. So this volume shares stories and traditions behind the Jewish celebrations, from year-round holidays to once-in-a-lifetime special events. So it features illustrations that capture the heart of the Jewish tradition and a glossary of important terms for each holiday. So I thought that this was a really great book to highlight in this talk, because if you don't know anything about Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or any of the other Jewish holidays and you're interested, this little book seems like a great place to start. It sounds welcoming and interesting, and kind of captures the spirit, not just the words of the holidays for them, but the spirit of them. So the Little Book of Jewish Celebrations, if you want to learn more. And I have a cookbook next, and then we're done for the week. Okay, so The Artisanal Kitchen, Jewish Holiday Baking, Inspired Recipes for Rosh Hashanah, Hanukkah, Purim, Passover, and More by Uri Sheft and Raquel Pelzel. This says that every holiday is an excuse to eat something delicious. Love that thinking. And it says that you can bake your way through the Jewish holidays with 25 insanely delicious, foolproof recipes, including poppy seed hamantashen for Purim, or coconut macaroons for Passover, apple babka for Rosh Hashanah, which is the one we're celebrating today. And these dishes are from a master baker and author of Breaking Breads. And it says that it captures the old world, new world, out of this world flavors of contemporary Jewish and Israeli cuisine. So again, an updated take, right? A lot of tradition, but also some new things that are being introduced, because traditions don't stay the same forever. They do alter as time moves on and different generations take over. Things can there's the familiar is there, but things can be altered and updated. And so I feel like all of these books, fiction and nonfiction, are about kind of the contemporary experience of Jewish culture in our country and around the world. And so I hope that you really enjoy some of these books and that you will request them. And I will try to think of other interesting things to talk about for you next week. But I will see you all then. And if in the meantime, if there's anything that we can do for you at the library, please don't hesitate to give us a call or come in and see us. Okay? We'll talk to you next week. Bye, everyone.